Showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
Are we on? Hey, we did it. This is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. My name is J. Cal, and every Tuesday we come to you live here on twitch.tv or on youtube.com to bring you the pre-party. This is how we get pumped up. This is how we get ready for NWA Power. Every week, the NWA offers something new on Fight TV. You can sign up for that subscription for $4.99 a month. And for $4.99 a month, you get about 45 minutes to an hour of pro wrestling from the NWA. And I'm here to get you ready, get you pumped up. We're going to talk about the National Wrestling Alliance. We're going to talk about tonight's show. We also might drop in some United Wrestling Network. And we're going to talk to you guys. You guys, the folks in the chat. Because this is a community, guys. This is every much your show as it is mine. We are that hashtag NWA fam, and I'm glad you guys are here. And I've already see Terry McDermott's in the house. Welcome, Terry. Doty's in the house. What's up, Doty? Sweet Vanilla's in the house. What's up, Sweet Vanilla? And Dave Scooby wants to remind everyone to like, follow, share, comment, subscribe. We'd appreciate y'all doing that. Lamb says hello to everyone on YouTube. And welcome to everyone on Twitch. So we've got an exciting week of television. I don't know how they're going to fit it all in. There's a qualifying match for the tag team tournament. We've got what else do we have? We have the women's matchup between Jennacide and Allysin K. The winner, if Jennacide wins, then Team Taryn Terrell gets a shot at the women's tag team titles. Hey. PWZ Podcast is in the house. Welcome. And also Willie Bowen's here. Willie. I'm sure Willie's got a shot to take it. Tyra's here. We'll put that up on the screen momentarily. But guys, this is kind of what we've been talking about with the NWA. With a lot of the, we come off these pay-per-views with such a high and then the kind of a lull, but it looks like we're kind of ramping back up again. We've got some pretty big matches tonight. Again, we're going to see, hey, Sean Mega's in the house. What's going on, Sean? Welcome to the show. It looks like we're going to have a triple threat match with the tag team triple threat match, which is going to be bigger than life. You're going to have the End. You're going to have Trevor Murdoch and the Pope. And then you're going to have the new team of Jeremiah Plunkett teaming up with Crimson. And it just... It just looks like the NWA is ramping up here. Now, I'm not a big fan of throwing together tag teams, but, with Crimson and Jax Dane splitting up, it looks like this might be a new route. Both of them are from Middle Tennessee, so hopefully we'll see some more, there's some continuity here. If they're actually building up to it, that'd be pretty cool. If not, that's okay too. But the booking of this one is a little bit questionable too, because I mean, typically when we have these bookings, like there's a reason for it, right? Like there's no animosity between the End and Trevor Murdoch and the Pope and Crimson and Jeremiah Plunkett. That's a little suspect to me. And I don't know why. I don't know why they're booking this match. I mean, it might be a great match, and I'm sure it will be. And I bet you dollars to donuts that Jack Stain somehow gets involved. But I just don't understand why they're booking this kind of a match. Like, everything else on the card makes sense to me. We've got, again, Strictly Business is coming out to make a statement. Understood. That makes a lot of sense. We see that sorry, I lost my notes here. Cyon is going to address Tyrus in the television championship. I mean, again, that makes sense. They've been building towards that. Even Jennacide challenging Allysin Kay in that match, it has implications for the women's tag team titles. That all makes sense. But this match, which may or may not be the main event, just looks a little suspect. It just doesn't fit in. There's no real booking for it. It's just kind of, hey, let's throw this together and see how it works. And then, of course, we have that quarter final match with Hawx Aerie taking on Mims and Colby Corino. Now, I'm not even really sure how that tag team came together. It was just a few weeks back. Colby Corino and PJ Hawk were battling for a spot at the TV title, and the match broke down into just a street fight, really. And at one point, just a few weeks ago, the Hawk family addressed Colby Corino and really dressed down the Corino name, the Corino family. And I knew Willie was going to get us with a Tyrus bust. The only thing Tyrus can address is a buffet. Excuse me. Willie, thank you for that. Thank you for that, my brother. Doty says that El Rudo and Jamie Stanley has grown on him. Too bad they lost early. Yeah, the cool thing about the NWA is that nobody seems to be out. You know what I mean? Like, James Storm was gone for about 8 months before he made his return to the NWA. And now that he's back, I mean, he's right back into, in contention. He challenged for the national championship. Now him and, of course, Judias are going to be fighting, or at least are going to be toe-to-toe, is how they described it on Twitter tonight. So we'll see how that all plays out. Sean Mega says he's glad to see Plunkett getting high-profile matches. And you know what? I am too, man. Jeremiah Plunkett is a guy who's been with the NWA for a very, very long time. And he's a guy that has a lot of contributions. Some people seem to forget that Jeremiah Plunkett once challenged Satoshi Kojima for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Plunkett also won an international NWA title in Australia. He held the Southern Heavyweight Championship multiple times. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Jeremiah Plunkett. And I kind of hope he does get more of a role with regular programming. Remember when C.W. Anderson was on the show, he was kind of used as enhancement in the early stages. And then they kind of started using him in a more serious role. And I felt like if he had not walked away, that he might have been in a real tag team for the NWA, but of course he stepped away for a while. Lamb says that he likes the End. He wish they had a bigger role on TV, and I think tonight you're going to see them in a bigger role. I do believe they'll be in the main event. Doty says, now my money is on the End, Hawx Aerie, and Aaron Stevens and Kratos. They have grown on me as a tag team. Yeah, I mean, look, the End is highly underutilized as far as I'm concerned. They're the best tag team in the NWA that haven't had a real good shake at those tag titles. I mean, I really do enjoy La Rebellion. Like I said, you guys know I went down to Mexico to watch them wrestle down at the Crash, and they were just in my backyard last week down in Whittier, and or excuse me, not Whittier, Westminster, and I regret not being able to get out to that show. They're a good tag team, solid tag team, but like to me, the end, I mean, you're kind of teetering on that Legion of Doom, Powers of Pain, big, strong dudes throwing people around kind of a tag team. And I would love to see more of the end getting opportunities for those tag team titles. And then, of course, Hawx Aerie's, I really do believe that Luke and PJ have solidified not only their placement in the NWA, but have made the case that either one of them would make a strong addition to the television championship. Either one of them could be the next TV champion. And I hope that Hawx Aerie become, pillars of this new NWA going forward. And then with Kratos and Stevens, I mean, Kratos and Stevens, they never were a bad tag team. They just were a mismatched tag team. There was nothing wrong with them as a pairing. The NWA didn't do a whole lot with them. And it seems like they waited till the end to make them really, really can't miss before they took the belts off of them. So that to me is kind of a little disappointing. Hopefully down the road, they'll get another opportunity as well. But personally, I want to see the old Aaron Stevens. I want to see the Aaron Stevens that would just would mess around, like the silliness. I really liked that version of Aaron Stevens. Terry McDermott says that he hopes Kratos and Aaron get the titles again. I don't think you're the only one, Terry. I see Doty says, if you think Jennacide versus AK is the only booking that makes sense, then the women's division is still the best division in the NWA. It's hard to argue that. I mean, they're building stuff with the women's division, at least. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm playing favorites here, but with the women's division, there's continuity from week in and week out. I mean, Kamille punched Melina in the face just a few weeks ago. Now Melina is going to address that. Kamille did that based on the fact that she felt like Melina was disrespecting her. And we know during the coronation ceremony when Kamille won the title and Aldis proclaimed her the queen, Melina was the one that came out there to try to start something. And remember, it was Jennacide was the one who pulled Melina out of the ring. Very odd set of circumstances, but the continuity is there, right? Like, okay, so maybe Jennacide isn't involved anymore, but Melina and Kamille have had this beef for some time. You got to remember too that Melina was the advocate, the original manager of Thunder Rosa while she was in the NWA. So she was kind of always had Thunder Rosa's back. And remember, Kamille and Thunder Rosa, they were battling for that women's number one contendership. So the continuity is there. The storyline continues. And that's at least, I tip my hat to Billy that in the women's division, that continuity still exists. And I think that's really, really great. Same thing with the TV title. The Pope was your champion. Tyrus was on the hunt for that television title. He kept going. And then you had this masked man show up who said he wanted to be world's heavyweight champion. The masked man ended up being in a partnership with the Idol Sports Management and had worked with them in the at the last pay-per-view, the 73rd anniversary show. But nowhere, in no time did he join Idol Sports Management. His goal has always been the World's Heavyweight Championship. And the quickest route to the World's Heavyweight Championship is a dominant reign as television champion or winning the national title. And it looks like to me, and we'll find out tonight, if he does, in fact, challenge Tyrus for that title, we know that Cyon, his quickest route for the 10 pounds of gold is going to be through Tyrus and a lengthy reign as the television championship. So we'll see how that works. But I'm really interested to see what happens next with Cyon. And that says something because the character himself hasn't really been must-see TV, but the way that they're booking the storyline is makes it very interesting. Doty also says he misses C.W. Anderson and hopes he will return with the NWA sooner than later. I mean, I never heard of any bridges being burned. I never heard of them having any discussions about there was a falling out or anything. When he decided to retire, it was while he was a part of the NWA, but the NWA wasn't really running shows at that moment because they were on the pandemic pause. So I don't know if there's any hurt feelings or if maybe he just needs to reach out or if they need to reach out. I mean, he was mostly enhancement, But he would be a great second for Colby Corino, living in his the legacy of his father, maybe even starting an Extreme Horseman. Now you're onto something, and I think that would be interesting if they did that. Heeb says the commentary interview guy from the NWA Sawmill. That guy was the worst. I know who you're talking about, Heebs. I think he was the guy with the cowboy hat, and yeah, he was not. He was grating. Dodie says he misses Aaron as a goofy cartoonist heel. Still waiting for Tropical Pirates Season 2. The Pirates of Malibu. Yeah. I enjoyed that work with Stevens. Like, I know that at some point every wrestler evolves and they're not the same character. But I felt like that heel was a good setup for like this nostalgic style of wrestling that kind of appeals to a niche audience. And having a heel that played that role was fitting when you had Nick Aldis, the Ultra Heel, the Mega Heel, the baddest dude on the planet, and his stablemates, and they were running the show, the 10 pounds of gold. And then you had on the other hand, you had Aaron Stevens with the question mark as his bodyguard, and they were the comic relief, if you will, of NWA Power. I'm not saying that all Power has to be a joke and that all has to be silly, but I felt like that was a lot more entertaining than some of what it is now. Terry says a great women division. Tag team is weak. The 3-ways are there, but he doesn't like them. And I have to agree with that. I'm not a big proponent of triple threat matches unless there's a storyline that makes sense, right? So like, for example, the television title, if that became a triple threat match because JTG wanted a shot at Tyrus and Cyon wanted a shot at Tyrus and Tyrus has to defend the title, then a triple threat match makes sense. Or even on the flip side now, on the national championship, when you have James Storm, who evidently still wants to be national champion, you've got the national champion Chris Adonis, and then you have Judias, who has the number one contendership, then that would kind of make sense to me too. Although if I was Judias, I'd be kind of pissed having to share my number one contendership with James Storm, who hasn't really done anything yet to earn that title match. But yeah, the whole triple threat matches, the title triple threat matches in it of itself, I don't like them. I would rather see a one-on-one match, and I would rather see the NWA kind of establish some sort of ranking system, because as it is right now, like we had James Storm come back after an 9-month hiatus from the NWA, had really no contribution to the NWA, and his first match back gets a shot at the national championship. To me, that just, I don't like that. I prefer there have been some sort of buildup for that. Or, to determine number one contenders, the battle royals, I would say once a year, that's okay. But like once every few weeks, I think that's just sloppy booking, but that's just my opinion. Lamb says, yeah, the Cyon thing hit a rock so far, so let's see how this will get going. Yeah, and I see the thing about Cyon is the gimmick itself is not overly great. Trying to bring a masked man in, I'm not sure what Billy's motivation was for this one. Maybe he just wants to have a masked wrestler, and that's completely okay too. But he's been such a gray figure. He's not really black. He's not really white. We don't really know if he's a face or a heel. In his matches, he tends to wrestle more like a face, but his actions in promos seem to be more heelish, so it's kind of hard to determine what he is. Heeb says, brother, Jack Daddy, let me tell you, and that is very much the Nick Nitros that Dodie's brought up. That's one of the best things about the Billy Corgan era of the NWA is we don't have any more Nick Nitros. And for all the Nick Nitros fans out there, I apologize. Just was never a big fan. Willie Bowen said Jennacide versus Allysin Kay will be a great match. And I think it will be too. Allysin Kay, don't let Thunder Rosa fool you. She was awesome. Thunder Rosa was amazing, but she wasn't the only solid women's wrestler in this promotion when she won that championship from Allysin Kay. I think that if Allysin Kay and if the NWA ball would have kept on rolling, we might have seen that title change hands back and forth between AK and TK. TR. TK is Tony Khan, different guy altogether. I think Allysin Kay and Thunder Rosa could have had a lot more interesting bouts down the road. Obviously, when they faced off, it wasn't, I felt like they could have done more with that storyline had the NWA still been around. So the fact that we didn't get more of it, it just made me feel like there could have been more. So, anyways, Heeb says he's not sure if it's him or Chris Michaels, but one of them followed me back on Instagram. I think you're talking about Nitros, and I'll skip that. Our good pal, our good friend, the mayor, he says he misses the announcer from NWA Saw with the large bore Sukov type. Nice one. Terry says, I'm shocked that the NWA doesn't have a triple threat championship. And Doty's quick to respond, don't give him any ideas, Terry. That's awesome. You guys are hilarious. The Dave Scooby brings up an excellent point. An excellent point. We have not had one Tom Latimer match since the pay-per-view. The NWA does need to feature more Latimer. He does seem lost in the shuffle. What are they going to do with him? Now, maybe that'll be addressed today in the Strictly Business statement. We don't know exactly for sure what that's going to be just yet, but I could only imagine that Latimer has intentions of challenging Trevor Murdoch for the 10 pounds of gold. I mean, if he was going to go after the national title, he could have done that a long time ago, and he hasn't made any overtures to the TV title since the Pope has had it. Lamb says, I don't get the James Storm part. Is he full-time back? He only had one segment and a few episodes and then nothing. Yes, James Storm, I don't know his contractual status. I mean, that kind of information is classified. No one's really sharing that information, but I believe he and Judias have a program going right now, and we'll probably see some more altercations between the two up until the next pay-per-view. I mean, that's just what I imagine. I don't really know. And Lamb says if he wants a masked wrestler who looks like a heavyweight, he should bring in Mysterioso from New Japan Strong. That's fair. And then Terry says, not knowing what Cyon is, I guess, is the mystery character he is supposed to be. And then Doty says, kind of what we're all thinking. They still have a problem with how to throw all of their wrestlers, which is too many, and for good or bad, triple threat becomes a solution. And we've joked about it. We've talked about it. A secondary show might be worth their while, whether it be on terrestrial television or YouTube or something. It just seems like there's so much talent that 45 minutes a week is just not enough. And when you have multiple championships, hey, Certified Hustlers in the house. What's going on, Certified? When you have multiple championships, right? You have 3 single men titles, 1 women's championship, and then a women's tag and a men's tag. I mean, that's literally 6 championships right there. And that means that you have to each and every week dedicate some time to a title, whether it be a title match or promos or building up a tournament or having discussion or qualifying matches. And I think people get lost in the shuffle, absolutely, but it feels like there's no time for anything else. And like if you pack this show every week with a title match every week, you still couldn't fit everything in a month. So I kind of ponder the idea that maybe there just isn't enough time in a month for the NWA, and that perhaps a secondary show would make a lot of sense. And they don't have so much talent that they can't feature on the show. I just think they have too many titles that it's kind of hard to get to everything. If they eliminated the national championship tomorrow, if that became a thing of the past, you would still have to find a way to present the TV title, the women's tag, the men's tag, the women's world, and the men's world titles. So I just feel like there might be too many championships. And I've heard people say things like, well, why not bring a 6-man tag in? And I don't think the problem is not enough titles. I think the problem is there's too many titles and not enough TV. And Willie says, again, with a quick zinger, Tyrus's water jug could put out the wildfires in Northern California. We could use all the help we can, man. It's getting crazy out there. What did you guys think about that? I mean, I know I just said that the six-man tag title seems to be just not enough room for it, but what do you guys think? Do you think the NWA should consider a trios championship a six-man tag? What are your thoughts? I mean, I'm kind of curious as to that as well. Lamb says, how many episodes are we in so far? I believe this is this is like the 4th week of television since the pay-per-view. Sean Mega says no to the titles. Lamb says no to the titles. Heeb says Puke City on more titles. So, I mean, like, look, I think we're all in agreement that maybe the NWA doesn't need any more titles. I know the Pope brought it up. And, I mean, look, it would be kind of cool to see. It'd be cool to see, like a tag team like the End get recognized by winning the titles. But at the same time, it's like maybe there's just too many belts. And I don't know. Terry says, why 6-man teams? We need some regular tag teams first. That's a heck of a good point, Terry. That is a very strong point. Let's look at some of the tag teams we have right now, right? I mean, look, we like legitimate tag teams. Of course, you got your World Tag Team Champions in La Rebellion, who evidently have gone to Mexico, and we won't see them on TV until this tournament is over. But you have the End. You have technically Strictly Business, Latimer and Adonis. You have apparently you have Crimson and Jeremiah Plunkett. You have Hawk Aerie. You have this tag team of Jamie Staley and Sam Adonis. You've got another tag team by way of a mishmash of JTG and Colby Corino. And then you've got, I mean, I don't know if they're still officially a tag team, but Cyon and Jordan Clearwater. I mean, that's technically like 7 tag teams, but I don't even know if you can count half of those guys as tag teams at this point. So it's kind of you're right, Terry. I mean, they should have some more like tag teams. But I mean, that's the thing too on the women's side. We could talk about how great the women's division has been, but they just made these tag team titles and there aren't like that many women on the roster. The Jennacide and Paola just became a part of the NWA at the last pay-per-view. And there are no like legitimate women tag teams on the roster currently. So Dodie says Power Surge more or less has become the secondary show. Now it better have its own time slot and not a power substitute. See, and there you go. I mean, like that would be ideal, right? If you could have 4 episodes of Power a month and then 4 episodes or 2 episodes of Power Surge on YouTube. To me, I think that would make a lot of sense. It would give them a little bit more time. It would offer some free content to the YouTube channel, and it would give them an opportunity to showcase some more talents that don't necessarily get seen on Fight TV. One of the things that we talked about last week on the Alliance Guys podcast was that the NWA potentially doing, with AEW doing their own studio wrestling show, AEW Dark, and having those matches presented on YouTube gives an opportunity for talents to kind of come into their own on TV, but not being really on the main stage. And I think that the NWA would benefit from that tremendously. And then Heeb says, episode 4 of Power, 1 episode of Surge. It's been 5 weeks. Thank you, Heebs. Appreciate that. And then Dodie says, no more titles. And if they're crazy enough to add more titles, then the junior heavyweight title should be the priority. Whew. How awesome would a junior heavyweight title be in this day and age? I mean, you've got the WWE kind of ignoring the 205 Live Championship, it's kind of fallen by the wayside. The X Division title, still just as important as ever in Impact Wrestling. The New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, still a very important title, very prestigious. The NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship used to be every bit as prestigious as the IWGP title, and I would love to see them see that title defended again. Bring Barrett Brown back, bring in Danny Limelight, bring in Matt Cross, bring him back and have that title shine. And I tell you, some of those matches would be incredible. Sean Mega says, since SWE is basically done, Haas needs to come over. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? There has been a lot of rumors saying that SWE Fury is done. And it's kind of sad if it is. That was a promotion that I kind of followed. We know that they were very supportive of the National Wrestling Alliance. They had invited Trevor Murdoch to defend the national championship when he was champion. I mean, I guess there was also maybe a talk that he would bring the World's Heavyweight Championship to SW Fury. They really kind of fizzled out, and it sucks because there was at one point so many good things happening at SW Fury, and in some ways kind of mirrored a lot of what the NWA was doing. I mean, they had Thunder Rosa on the roster. They had Tim Storm on the roster. Tim Storm was their champion for a while. Jax Dane. They were using the War Kings, and I really felt like that show could have helped the NWA. I think they could have been mutually beneficial to each other. And at one point, I even said that SW Fury and Billy Corgan should have had a conversation, and Billy should have bought out SW Fury and made that a secondary NWA show. I know this is just Jake Howe talking crazy, but could you imagine having that kind of a roster, adding, did my camera battery die? There we go. Sorry, guys. Bringing that kind of roster to the NWA. I'm talking about Charlie Haas, Red Dog. At the time, War Kings were part of the show. At the time, they were using a Miranda Gordy, Lacey Von Erich. It just seemed like it would have been a really good acquisition for the NWA. However, it just never came to fruition. Lamb says, technically, it's a wild card tag team tournament for the number one contender shot with only 2 to 3 real teams. That's a good point, Lamb. Didn't even think of it that way, but yeah, you're right. Let's see. I missed a bunch of your guys' comments. Terry says, what happened to SWE? The rumors, and I see Brian, happy birthday, Brian. It was his birthday last week. There's been a lot of talk about SW Fury and that it's heading down the wayside. But I want to see what Brian has to say about it. Willie says the NWA has many titles, but not enough contenders. Sean Mega says Lacey's trying to sell it and they're not paying talent and they don't even have a ring. I didn't know Lacey had. I know Lacey was involved, but I thought that was like a worked thing. I didn't know she was really involved. Roderick Strong just became the new Cruiserweight champion, so it's a reboot the division starting this week. Well, NXT 2.0, the whole thing's rebooting, so hopefully they do something decent with that. Terry, I know Terry did like SW Fury. Oh, no, a lot of people did. Heebs said bring in Ricky Morton. Heebs, you're lucky that Mr. Kevin Frazier isn't on the show right now. And then Brian says that SW Fury is not done. I mean, Brian, I'll take your word for it. I've heard people within the industry say otherwise, but I'm not there. I'm not part of it. Terry hopes it comes back. Willie says Lacey Von Erich should be in NWA Power. The problem with Lacey Von Erich is, right, she's not really a wrestler. She's just more of a personality. And I mean, if we're going to go tit for tat, as much as I like Lacey Von Erich, as easy as she is on the ice, you already have that really with Taryn Terrell until she becomes an active wrestler again. I mean, I don't see the benefit of adding Lacey Von Erich over Taryn Terrell. I don't mean to sound rude, but they're basically interchangeable. They're beautiful women to look at. They're decent on the mic. They can cut promos, but I mean, what more can Lacey bring to the table that Taryn Terrell can't? And honestly, Taryn Terrell's been more relevant in pro wrestling in the last 10 years than Lacey Von Erich. Heap says, didn't Booker T take most of their TV spots? My understanding is that SWE Fury basically allowed Booker T's Reality of Wrestling to take over those spots because they were going to go a different direction and no longer produce events for live television. More so, they were going to just do pay-per-view. So, I mean, I think that would still be a cool thing. And look, if Brian Rosa, who is more connected to what's going on in the Texas wrestling scene, is saying that they're not going away or they're not gone, then I put more stake into that than what you guys are hearing from me or what I've heard from others, because Brian is actually involved in that circuit of pro wrestling. If I told you something about SoCal wrestling, you could probably bank on it. I'm going to trust Brian on this one because, again, he is got his ear close to the ground out there in Texas. Dodie says, I consider El Rudo and Jamie Stanley to be a real tag team as of now. I mean, boy, they should be, right? They have a lot of good chemistry. This isn't like putting, Captain Yuma in a tag team with that other guy whose name I can't think of right now. And then Dodie says, either bring back the Rock and Roll Express or bring back Ricky Morton with his son, and we have another Hawx Aerie. Do we need another Hawx Aerie? I mean, sorry, guys. I'm not a big Ricky Morton fan. I'm just not. He's 65 or 64. I mean, it's cool that he still wrestles. I'm glad that people still have an appreciation of him in the ring. But there's so much underutilized talent, not just in the NWA, but in independent wrestling in general. Why do we keep going back to guys who were big in the 80s? I mean, we're not – when you say we're past Ricky Morton's prime, I mean, his prime was in the 80s, in the early 90s. That's almost 30 years ago. Let's let it go. Let's move on. There's other talent out there. If you have to keep going back to the Hulk Hogan's of the world or the Ric Flairs of the world or the Ricky Mortons of the world to get your brand over, you're not doing a good job of getting your brand over. And then Brian says, yeah, SWE is just going to do house shows. Well, there's nothing wrong with that either, guys. Like, television isn't always the end-all, be-all we think it is. A lot of times, television can kill a wrestling promotion. Out here in Southern California, that was the sign that the promotion was going to go by the wayside. When they're like, oh, we're going to get television. That's usually when the promotion folded, because television doesn't really add a whole lot to your product unless you know TV, unless you know syndication, and unless you know how to get advertising or you get the best rates for television. Somebody like Dave Marquez understands TV. Somebody like Dave Marquez makes a lot of sense when it comes to television. But somebody who doesn't know TV, and I'm not trying to speak for SW Fury at all. Don't know any of the partners involved. I don't know their background in pro wrestling or television. But typically, television is not a good call unless you have those good relationships already in place. Heeb says Luke Hawk was on all of last week's Dark Side of the Ring, and I guess he's just super close to Canyon. Yeah, I mean, him and Brian Cage both were very, very close to Canyon, and I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know Canyon had a relationship with the Young Bucks either. That was kind of surprising to me. Lamb says there are people who want to see Jerry Lawler wrestle like he did versus Scott Steiner last week in a terrible match. I mean, come on. I don't think that in 2021 I need to see Jerry Lawler wrestle. I get it. He was such a big thing for Memphis wrestling. He was a big deal for wrestling in general. But at this point, what does he have to offer? What is he going to do that's going to make you pop in your chair and be like, yes, I needed to see that? The Honky Tonk Man. Holy crap, the Honky Tonk Man still wrestles at the San Diego State Fair almost every year, and I don't understand. The man doesn't even bump anymore in the ring. Why would you pay to see that match? Why would you even care to see him wrestle? It's not like he was the world's heavyweight champion. He was the Intercontinental champion. The same thing for Lawler. I get it. Memphis is a big, big, big deal. But that was 40 years ago. Come on. I'm not against – I'm not an ageist. I swear to you. I don't care how old you are. DDP was world champion at 45 in WCW, and he looked awesome. But at this point in the industry, if you have to keep going back to these guys who are far past their primes, you're doing something wrong. Whew. And that's me getting all upset over nothing. The mayor says tag teams these days usually put together that keep working together until it sticks. Happens everywhere, even PWG, not just El Rudo and other dude. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, PWG just crowned tag team champions with Tommy and Aleister Black or whatever, Malachi Black, whatever they're calling him in AEW. And our good friend Brody King, former NWA World Tag Team Champion. Kudos to both of them, by the way. But yeah, they weren't a regular tag team when this happened, and all of a sudden now they're tag champs. So it's one of those deals. And speaking of Brody King, he's the second wrestler in this many years to have been a former NWA World Tag Team Champion and a Pro Wrestling Guerrilla Tag Team Champion. The other wrestler to do that is disgraced famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan. Terry McDermott says BIW, based in West Monroe, Louisiana, has been around for years and never been on TV. There's a lot of promotions that have never been on TV that have been around for a very, very long time. And that's okay. Like, again, TV isn't the end-all, be-all, but I really do think that at this point in the game, if SWE Fury is taking a back seat, maybe they'll do pay-per-views. Maybe they'll just focus on house shows. I mean, if you can do a house show and get a paid gate, I mean, what is TV bringing for you? A headache? And Rosville's in the house. And yes, you are late. You have demerits now. Willie Bowen says Honky Tonk Man and Jerry Lawler are big zeros. Look, I get that there's a draw for some people, right? I get it. But for me, in this year, in this day and age, I don't really need to see Jerry Lawler ever wrestle again. There's a lot of guys I used to love growing up in wrestling. For example, I used to be a huge Wayne Bloom fan, right? I don't need to see him wrestle ever again. Ever. Scott Steiner was my guy. I love Scott Steiner and the Steiner brothers. I don't need to see Rick and Scott in the ring again. Ever. It's time to let these guys go. Lamb brings up a perfectly good point. With the streaming era, TV is kind of irrelevant in the indies. Again, it has to make the right sense. If you have those relationships like a Dave Marquez, and you can get people to come to your shows, and I mean, I think it would be great for some promotions, but like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla doesn't have TV. They've been around since 2003, I think, 2002 maybe, and they're one of the highest sought after places to work. The wrestlers love working for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Some of the names that have been there have moved on to bigger and better, like the WWE or AEW. Hell, even talents from AEW are still coming back to work for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and they don't have television. They don't need television. Dave Scooby says he's gonna see my boy Danny Limelight at MLW Fightland. Him and Slice are going to be challenging Los Parkas for the titles. Danny Limelight, I was really cool. I don't know if we talked about this last week. I was able to introduce him as Southern California Wrestling of the Year and the most outstanding wrestler in Southern California back at the United Wrestling Network anniversary of Primetime Live. That was a real treat because, as you know, I've been a big advocate for Danny Limelight here on this podcast. He's made appearances here. He's been on our post show, our The Alliance Guys podcast. Danny Limelight is somebody who I think is a great talent. I hope nothing but the best for him. And like we've said in the past, he wants to be signed and he wants to live that abundant lifestyle. I hope MLW is doing that for him. Just this weekend, he was on Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, teaming with Slice Boogie as the Bodega to take on the Awakening, formerly known as the Ascension, into WWE. Next weekend, they're going to be at MLW Fightland as 5150 in Conan's corner, taking on the Los Parkas. I think that's going to be awesome. Very happy for Danny Limelight. Him being at MLW is going to prevent him from being at the primetime live pay-per-view on Saturday, October the 2nd that I will be at. You guys could order that primetime live, just $9.99 at the Commerce Casino. They're gonna have like the crowning of the world champion. You're gonna see Michael Bennett return to United Wrestling Network. He was in Atlanta a few weekends ago, and he'll be challenging Chris Dickinson. The two of them will face off, and the winner will become the first ever United Wrestling Network World Champion. A title match that's been like 9 months in the making, or maybe even closer to a year in the making. And the crazy thing is that belt, that championship, has been unfilled for 12 years. They've been trying to find a person to be champion, and they'll finally have their first ever champion at the end of October 2nd at that pay-per-view. So I'm really excited about that. He says, I watched Honky Tonk Man team with Buck Zumhoff in 2011. That's the second Buck Zumhoff reference we've had on the show, and quite frankly, I'm not okay with that. No more Buck Zumhoff talk. The guy's in prison. Child molester. Willie Bowen says, if the NWA brings back the junior heavyweight championship, then maybe Austin Aries could be an idea. I mean, look, I think Austin Aries, I don't think he's working anywhere right now. Anywhere. And I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with Austin Aries. Politically thinking and morally speaking, we're not exactly on the same level, but you can't take away how great he is in the ring, and it certainly would create some controversy. I don't know if the NWA would want that, but I couldn't, they brought in Tyrus, so I couldn't see why not. Lamb brings up, he thought the match at the Fightland is a trios. It could be. I don't know. Our resident expert on MLW, all things MLW in this chat, is Dave Scooby. Roswell says, nice looking venue. I'm not sure if you're talking about the Commerce Casino or if you're talking about Fightland, but I'm looking forward to being at the Commerce Casino. The last time I was there, I saw a match between Samoa Joe and Willie Mack, and it really tore the house down. And afterwards, Samoa Joe gave this very significant speech about Southern California wrestling that I wish would have resonated more with the talent than it did. Samoa Joe was Southern California wrestling for a very long time, and I don't feel like anybody has stepped up to the plate to bring to the table the Southern SoCal what Samoa Joe did. Now, that's not saying that there aren't guys out there trying, but nobody was on the same page as Samoa Joe. Roswell says the casino. Yeah, that casino, it's a pretty cool look. I can't wait to see how they make it look for pay-per-view and for television. They did film there for TV, again, like 10 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like now going forward. And another zinger. Zing, zing, zing. I need a soundboard. Tyrus is good for cleaning dinner plates. Willie, I love the Willie jokes because he comes out and he just bashes Tyrus every episode, and I love it. Willie, don't ever stop doing that. The mayor says the match is available on YouTube. Yeah, the match between Samoa Joe and Willie Mack. I don't know why I drew a blank there. Willie Mack's my guy. But I mean, so we've been talking for wrestling for close to 50 minutes, and we really didn't even talk much about today's show. But again, the basic rundown is that we get that tag team match of Hawx Aerie against Colby and JTG, Jay the God. That should be very good. Colby has starting to kind of come into his own in the NWA. I'm not the biggest Colby fan, but I know a lot of you out there are. And then JTG is just a great wrestler. So you put them in the ring with Hawx Aerie, and it's going to be interesting. Again, I don't really understand the pairing, but, I know that Luke Hawk had some less than flattering things to say about Colby and his father, Steve. So it'll be kind of fun to see if there's any kind of repercussions, if how intense will Colby be in that match. Again, we're also supposed to have that women qualifier match if If Jennacide defeats Allysin Kay, then it sets up a tag team match between Team Taryn Terrell, and I know that's not their real name, but it's just easier to say than Paola, and Jennacide versus Team Hex. So that'll happen if Jennacide goes over tonight. Melina addresses Kamille. Cyon will speak on the TV title. Strictly Business will make a statement. Judias goes toe-to-toe with James Storm. I wish they would have just said if that's a match or not, because I don't know if they're going to be at the podium or if they're going to bring in the ring or what's going on. And then I believe it'll be the triple threat, and that's when you have the End taking on the world champion Trevor Murdoch and the Pope, and a new team of Jeremiah Plunkett and Crimson. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm really, really looking forward to that. I think that should be fun. The End hopefully goes over tonight because they are the only legitimate tag team that's out there. So we'll see how that goes. Doty says that MLW somehow has a tough fight MMA vibe, some vibe that I want to feel it in the NWA, at least for their pay-per-view. I mean, I was very happy with the way that the 73rd pay-per-view felt. And I don't think I'd want to change that. Each promotion has to feel distinct, right? And if MLW has this vibe, I don't know that the NWA should try to encroach on that. But I guess it all depends on the end user, right? Because like for me, I'm very excited with how the NWA has presented itself. I really felt like when Our Shadows Fall was the second pay-per-view during the pandemic, I still felt like they were trying to figure things out. The first pay-per-view, Back for the Attack, I think that one felt really flat because, again, it was still in the middle of the pandemic. There wasn't much of a live audience, so I felt that hurt the show. But, yeah, I don't know about that one. And then Terry McDermott says $9.99. I did not realize it was so affordable. I think you're talking about the the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live. And yeah, I mean, that to me, I think that's a very fair price. I'm excited for it. I'll be there live. I think I paid $20 for my ticket. But I mean, $10 for the show is not that bad. And it's supposed to be a pretty good show. I don't have the exact card in front of me, but I know that we're going to see a trios match where it's going to be students from the New Japan Dojo, which is like, oh God, I can't think of anybody's names right now. Anyways, I'm not going to try to guess it. It looks like a good card. If you could check it out, you should if you want to. I think there'll be a lot of fun matches there. Lamb says, why are Crimson and Plunk even teaming? And that's $1 million question that I do not have the answer for. I don't know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, I think Jeremiah Plunkett, I think he's just happy to be, I think he's happy to be invited to be a part of the show. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not working in an enhancement match. Sounds good to me. But I really think that, I think that'll be an interesting pairing. And then right now, if you guys don't mind, I'm just pulling up the Primetime Live card right now. Again, $9.99. The matches that are scheduled, and of course, subject to change, right? But you've got Midnight Heat taking on Pretty Peter Avalon and Ray Rosas. You've got Clark Connor, Carl Fredericks, and Alex Coughlin, and that's the New Japan Dojo guys taking on Kevin Martinson, Rust Taylor, and Daniel Garcia. Russ Taylor recently released from his WWE contract. He was part of the Diamond Mine. If you don't know who Kevin Martinson is, one of the top talents in Southern California, never gets his just due. And then Daniel Garcia has been making waves, both in New Japan Strong and AEW. You have Ruby Reyes taking on Vivian Van. I'm not super excited about that match. I love Ruby Reyes. Just that doesn't seem like a very great matchup for her. Dave Finley of New Japan Pro Wrestling will be taking on Will All Day. And, of course, in the main event, you have Chris Dickinson and Mike Bennett. Really feel like that's a solid pay-per-view. And that happens this Saturday, October 2nd. So I think that should be a lot of fun. And then Lamb says Dave Scooby says they're teaming because they're tried and true. That should be the team name, too. What a great tag team name. Doty says, I don't like the pay-per-view at the at the TV studio. So I hope the NWA enjoys more success and money so they can hold more pay-per-views in an arena until GPP can finally reserve on TV only. I think I agree with that, man. The TVs, the pay-per-views that have been at the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studio has always kind of felt flat to me. Not necessarily bad, but just kind of flat. Anyways, we've got about 10 minutes until NWA Power returns to the airways, so we'll start wrapping it up now. If you guys don't know, right, if you don't know, our good pal over at NWA Gold is essentially giving away his replica of the Crown Championship. That was a title that was used from, like, I think it was 1959 to 1973. It's the title that Gene Kaninsky held. It was the title that Dory Funk Jr. held. And the replica title, our good pal NWA Gold is giving that away if we reach 1,000 subscribers. We're currently at 692, so there's quite a few more to go. But if you guys are interested in winning that championship, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, share these videos with your friends who like pro wrestling, who like the NWA. The sooner we grow this subscription account, the sooner somebody is going to walk away with a legendary replica championship. And that's not one that you see very often. It's a dope looking belt. And if I wasn't running this thing, then I would love to have been one of the names in the raffle to get it. So again, if you guys are interested in trying to get that championship, help us spread the word, help us get more subscribers to this channel by tweeting out you're watching the show or that sharing it with your friends who do like the NWA. Hey, Fiona's in the house. Fiona, thanks for watching. Love, appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Also, we are giving away that title. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, there'll be some sort of alliance prize package to go with that beautiful title belt. But if you want to get your own alliance hat or alliance t-shirt, you could do so by checking out our shop zone. The link is in the description of the podcast. We do appreciate it. All the any purchases for the hats or t-shirts go to improving the podcast, improving the website. We do really try to make this the best and professional looking podcast, because again, when you guys got This Is Pro Wrestling out there who look top notch, we want to be on the same boat with them. And of course, those are our pals over there. But if you do enjoy this podcast and you'd like to support it financially, we would appreciate you picking up a hat or a t-shirt you can wear to any of your wrestling events that you head out to. And again, if you don't want to support the show financially, but you'd like to support it without spending any money, hey, just like our social medias. Click, follow, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We're on TikTok. We're on Tumblr. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. And of course, you're watching us either on twitch.tv or youtube.com. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, that follow button, or that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. We really do need the follows to help grow the channel. So I'm going to end it now, guys. I do appreciate you guys being here. And we'll see you Thursday, hopefully with DKM back in the house. And Kevin and I will be speaking about this episode of NWA Power. And we'll be talking to you about pro wrestling. So make sure to buy the dip. And I'll see you at the matches. Have a good night.